Well, welcome to the final Peptide Masterclass with Coach Michelle Hall, Monday Night Live Training. We have gone through a lot of peptides the past, 8, 10 weeks. We've covered most of the healing, many of the healing peptides, I should say. Last week we talked about fat burning peptides, and this week we are talking about muscle building and recovery peptides. So I want to start by kind of setting expectations for this particular class because there really is a lot of noise out there about peptides. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of peptides it is, but specifically about these peptides we're going to talk about tonight. There is no peptide that replaces strength training, lifting weights. There is no peptide that is going to replace progressive overload, um, eating enough protein on a day-to-day basis that you need for your muscle, um, sleeping and sleeping properly, and also managing stress. There's not a peptide that's going to fix all of those things. Um, as you may or may not know, muscle is built through training stimulus and, more importantly, recovery. Oh. So, what peptides can do for you when used responsibly and under proper guidance, obviously, is to optimize the environment that we have inside of our bodies that will allow muscle to grow. It will allow proper recovery and for body recomp to happen more effectively, especially as we get older. Yeah, Larry's on this call, but midlife ladies, we know the struggle, right? So, my normal disclaimer, this video and masterclass is for educational purposes only. No medical advice is being given, no protocols are being given. I'm not telling you doses of things to use on your body. It's just to educate you on the various types of peptides and what they can potentially do for you. So, how is muscle built? Well, in order to build muscle, our bodies need three things, three non negotiables, I guess you can say: mechanical tension, progressive overload. Our muscles have got to be repeatedly challenged. So that's where, when you're doing a strength training workout, you need to do strength training properly. You need to have adequate fuel that you're putting inside of your body, because muscle is not going to grow in a chronic calorie deficit. And that's an issue that, again, a lot of midlife women go through because that is how we were raised. That was also the era of chronic cardio, right? We have to be constantly in a deficit. We have to be in a significant calorie deficit and run or do elliptical or whatever the cardio was that we were punishing ourselves with. And most midlife women do undereat protein. And then if they're trying to gain muscles, if they're trying to get lean muscles, look toned, they wonder why their muscles aren't responding to them. Well, it's because they're not consuming enough. And then the third, and probably the most important, is recovery. You have got to allow your body to recover. And where most people struggle is in this particular category, because you're not getting proper sleep. You are under an insane amount of stress, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, whatever. You're dealing with chronic inflammation, which so many of us do. And you've got slow tissue repair happening within your body. So I want you to really comprehend something that may seem a little bit strange to say, but muscle is not built in the gym. It is built during your recovery, during your rest days. That's why rest and recovery is so very important to strength training, to building proper muscle. You have to allow your body to do what it needs to do in order to complete what you want it to complete. right? And this is kind of where peptides can also enter the conversation and why they're being utilized more frequently for people who are doing strength training, trying to increase muscle, so on and so forth. I go through this every single class. What are peptides? Well, peptides are short chains of amino acids that our bodies already produce, but sometimes we're a little deficient in them, and they act as signals to different areas of our bodies. They are not going to force muscle to grow in your body. They don't do that. They are not going to override poor training and lack of recovery that you are basically putting your body through. And they're definitely not going to replace nutrition. What they can do is support recovery that your body so desperately needs. They can help improve sleep quality depending on the peptide. They can help reduce inflammation. We've gone through a lot of those. They can enhance your training output, and they can preserve your lean mass, specifically if you are utilizing a GLP-1, if you're macrodosing a GLP-1. Think of peptides as amplifiers. They amplify things that are supposed to be happening within our bodies. They're not substituting or taking over for what our bodies should naturally be doing, but sometimes they just kind of lose the message that they're supposed to be functioning properly. So in order to keep this, a little bit more clear, I've put these muscle related peptides into kind of stacks or buckets. The first one is going to be growth hormone signaling peptides or growth factor peptides. You may hear them called both things. The second one will be recovery and tissue repair. Again, these healing peptides we've talked about. The third one will be mitochondrial and energy peptides. We talked about those specifically with MOTS-C a few weeks ago. And then metabolic and appetite support peptides or tools. None of these four buckets, we'll call them, are going to work without strength training. You have to do the work. You have to lift the heavy things, ladies and gentlemen. So growth hormone signaling is what we're going to talk about first. Growth hormones do not, again, build muscle. They aren't going to send signals to your muscles saying, get big, tone up. They don't do that. Growth hormone can help to improve your recovery. They can help with your sleep. They can help to enhance your sleep. They are going to support tissue repair if you've got any sort of issues. They will help to preserve the lean mass, like we talked about a little bit earlier, and they can also help to support fat metabolism. This is about recomposition, body recomposition. It's not about overnight muscle growth or hypertrophy. Blah, 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 blah. That's a big word. This isn't, again, something that's going to make your muscles grow overnight. It's helping to completely change and improve the composition of your body. These are primarily done in stacks or, combinations, whatever you want to call them. And so I'm going to just kind of go over some of the most popular stacks that people will use and explain how they're going to interact with each other. You're going to hear a lot of letters and numbers and long words and peptides that sound very similar to each other. So if you get confused, you can always put a comment while I'm on this particular subject asking a follow-up question or for clarification, or if you want to write them down, you can do that as well. This will be available in a replay like they are every single week. So the first one that we're going to talk about is one of the most popular combinations for recomposition, recovery, and supporting your lean mass. And that is tesamorelin and ipamorelin. This is tesa-ipa, And this is actually a stack I currently have my husband on, but not for muscle. I'm already getting interesting in these things, right? I'll explain after I go through these various things. So tesamorelin is a very potent growth hormone peptide, and it's a GHRH analog. It will signal the GH production that our bodies do from our pituitary glands. It is going to help elevate the IGF-1, and this is why I have my husband on it. It is FDA approved for a specific thing. The specific thing it's approved for is reducing visceral fat, or VAT, visceral fat, with favorable body composition changes. My husband, if any of you know him, any of you have seen him, he carries a majority of his weight in his waist. Ooh, that was a tongue twister. He unfortunately has a good deal of visceral fat that, with doing the GLP-1s and also doing strength training and also HIIT training, we'll do Tabata stuff with him to do those intervals to help to burn that visceral fat. It's very hard for him to burn it off. So I have him on tesamorelin to help see if we're going to be able to improve that visceral fat on him. But so you've got the tesamorelin, and then you have the ipamorelin, which is a GHRP as well, or sorry, a GHRP, but it's also a ghrelin receptor agonist. So it'll lower somatostatins and kind of put the brakes on GH release in our bodies. It results in minimal cortisol spillover and is very well tolerated for longer blocks or longer cycles. You know, you can go a little bit longer than the 10 to 12 weeks most people do. Now, you combine the two of them together, and we're looking at supporting muscle protein synthesis. We're looking at a little bit faster recovery and reduced DOMS. It'll help to preserve and or build lean mass while assisting with fat loss. It's going to help improve deep sleep. So like slow wave sleep. That's the sleep we really want to be experiencing. And it can also support bone and connective tissue health. Again, very, very important thing in our bodies, especially as we're getting older. So the kind of the way that these two work together is tesamorelin makes GH, while ipamorelin signals, hey, it's time to release this GH. So the end result with the two of these working together is a more physiologic GH pulse that's happening in our bodies. Okay, the pituitary gland is functioning better with releasing the GH, or the growth factor. So think of tesamorelin as like the order that a manufacturer makes. Okay, ipamorelin is the shipping department. So tesamorelin is making it, and ipamorelin is making sure it gets delivered, or at least shipped out. So it's great for body recomp. It's really good for master athletes. It is good for people who are very busy and need a little bit more help with their sleep support and, you know, recovery with that. But again, keep in mind, any of these peptides are only going to be working for you if you have adequate protein, you are consuming creatine, and you're doing a progressive overload. There is consistency that's going to be spit out by me during this entire masterclass. Okay. Now, There are some things, I don't want to say negative side effects, but some things that can happen with this particular stack is temporary water retention. Some people will report that they seem to be retaining more water, which obviously will make the scale go up. It's almost like it's kind of swelling them up, and then they do eventually end up with kind of a whoosh effect that happens with this. Some people have talked about joint stiffness. It might be, again, because of the added or potential water retention that you can do or end up with. And then a third thing that people talk about is a possible glucose or IGF-1 elevation. So we want to make sure that we are monitoring our glucose. If you've got a CGM that you wear, or you have a blood glucose monitor, just kind of keep an eye on it to see if you're seeing any sort of elevation happening in your body while you're utilizing this particular stack. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just a possibility of something that can happen. I will tell you that my husband did experience the water retention and the bloating, which is kind of ironic because the whole point of this is to kind of, get his belly to get smaller. But so far, he is down an inch in his belly area, and that's measuring around his belly button. So that's good progress in my opinion, and that's over about a 6-week period. So we had the holidays. He enjoyed life while we were on the cruise, and that's okay. So muscle combo number 2 is going to be CJC 1295 without DAC, no DAC in it, and ipamorelin. These are going to, it's for physiologic GH pulsing. CJC 1295 is a short-acting GHRH analog, and it supports natural GH pulses. Okay, and again, what did we talk about? Ipamorelin will enable the GH release with very minimal spillover for cortisol or anything like that. No, Julie, these are not specific for men. I'm just giving you the example of the Ipotessa stack that I put Corey on for the visceral fat. So back to this one. Benefits are lean mass preservation, improved recovery, better sleep, and again, more bone and connective tissue support. So CJC makes the GH, and ipamorelin lets the GH out. Like opening the door, it's the doorman. This one is really good for lifters who are sleep compromised, have moderate recomp goals, or are, master athletes that are really looking to up their game. So muscle combo number 3 is going to be tesamorelin, CJC, no DAC, and ipamorelin. This is probably the most aggressive GH signaling stack that there is, because you have the tesamorelin, which is very strong with the GH and IGF-1. You have the CJC, which again, that natural pulse rhythm, and then ipamorelin, that's opening the door and taking off the brakes. So you're going to get max GH signaling from this stack. It's going to support the lean mass support. It's going to help you to recover a little bit faster. It'll help with visceral fat reduction and also deep sleep and repair. So if you think of it, I don't want to do it like a manufacturing or a door. I guess you can kind of say like a symphony. Okay, so tesamorelin would be the conductor of the symphony. Okay, it's instructing people what to do. CJC is the metronome, keeping the rhythm. Okay, and ipamorelin is the flow of the music that's coming out from everybody's beautiful instruments, right? So there we go. It's a symphony. It's a GH symphony right there. Another popular GH-related peptide is sermorelin. That is a GHRH analog. It has milder GH stimulation and is also shorter acting. This one is available a lot of places. The reason it's so popular is because it does have a lower side effect profile. It is usually the one that you want to start at, or it's a beginner GH peptide, I guess you can say, and it focuses a lot on recovery, sleep, and longevity. So the negatives, potential negatives to sermorelin would be it's less potent. So if you've got like hardcore recomp goals that you're trying to hit, this is something, again, it's a starter, you can say, as opposed to jumping into TESA or IPA. And it is a little bit slower to see the visible changes on the sermorelin, sorry. It's kind of like it's turning things down slowly, you know, like a dimmer. It's not like a light switch. It's turning things down. It's not an immediate type of or turning things up, I should say, slowly. It's not going to be as hardcore as these other ones. So now that we're kind of done talking about these GH and GF peptides, this is something that is very, very important to be addressed, because it actually came up yesterday during a news segment that infuriated me. A med spa owner was on the news and discussing GF peptides and how, oh, anybody can take these. They're safe for everybody to use. No, they're not. And this is something that is extremely important that she should have said and she didn't, whether it's because of ignorance or lack of education, or she just wanted to get people to come in the door at her med spa and then maybe sell them something else. Because anybody with active cancer or has just recently completed cancer treatment should never use a growth hormone or a GH stimulating peptide unless they are explicitly cleared by their oncology team. Okay? That is something that everybody needs to know. What does this include? Tesamorelin, ipamorelin, CJC variants, sermorelin, and HGH. GH and IGF-1 promote cell growth and repair. Okay? That is very beneficial for recovery, but it is not appropriate during or shortly after cancer treatment. This doesn't mean these peptides cause cancer. They don't. It means biology and timing matter. We do not want to encourage cell growth of the wrong kind. Okay? I just want everybody to understand that, because this is a very firm coaching boundary for me. And again, why I got so angry yesterday when this med spa owner made the comment that anybody can use any kind of growth factor peptides. No, they absolutely cannot. Okay? Off of my soapbox for a little bit. So now that we've talked about the growth, not just growth hormones, but the growth peptides, let's talk a little bit more. We're going to revisit some peptides that we've talked about already for muscle protection and also recovery, because again, these kind of all work hand in hand with any body recomp, strength training, so on and so forth that you're trying to accomplish in your particular journey. So these particular peptides don't build muscle directly, but they're protecting your ability to keep going and keep training. BPC 157, one of people's favorite peptides, will help with tissue repair. It's going to obviously help with your gut integrity and it'll increase circulation to areas that are stressed or injured. TB 500, which is usually paired up with BPC, will help with deep tissue repair, connective tissue, and overuse recovery. Please make sure if you're using these things, you are allowing those areas to rest. That is very, very important. KPV, which is one of my favorites, will inflammatory signaling balance. It'll help with that, the balance of that injured area, and it helps when inflammation is blocking progress that you're having. Because obviously, if you can't recover, you can't build muscle. That's physiology right there, guys. Julie, I'm seeing all your questions. They're not coming up on the computer, and I will get to those in a little bit. Okay, now back to other peptides. Mitochondrial and energy support. MOTS-C, we discussed that one a couple weeks ago, is going to help with energy production, your mitochondrial efficiency, training capacity, and also metabolic resilience, which is important. You know, they don't build muscle, but it's going to help improve your output and your recovery. Who do all of these peptides, you know, work best for? Specifically, the growth factor and growth hormone peptides. Good candidates are people who are consistent lifters but have poor recovery. You can't keep doing it without letting your body rest and recover. Midlife adults, I'm not just saying women, who are losing muscle because of hormone fluctuations, weight loss, stress, life changes, whatever. People who have body recomp goals that have plateaued. And then injury limited athletes who are trying to rebuild their capacity and get back to at least where they think that they should be at this point. Who should avoid these particular peptides? Well, people who aren't lifting. Why would you take, you know, growth hormone or growth factor peptides if you're not even lifting the heavy things? As we talked about a little bit earlier, chronic undereaters. People who have unmanaged anxiety and or potentially insomnia, because some people have experienced issues with various types of growth peptides. Again, active cancer or recent cancer treatment, nope. And quite frankly, people who are just looking for a shortcut. I know I am the first person to say that peptides are not cheats, they are not shortcuts. But if that's exactly what you're looking for because you don't understand how peptides work, then they're not for you. They're just not. So let's see. Tissue repair that I'm talking about. Any sort of tissue that may have been damaged, whether it's you have some sort of a sprain in certain areas of your body. The overuse injuries, like I said, that could potentially affect joints and or other connective tissue. A lot of people end up with, you know, very mild or, you know, grade 1 tears in certain areas of their bodies. They'll utilize TB and BPC for that, as well as KPV for those particular things. So that's tissue repair that I'm talking about with the healing peptides. Let's see. On any of these, if you see results and you do your 10 weeks or whatever, do the results slip away with not all of them? No, that's why we cycle them. And that's why it is so important to know proper protocol when utilizing peptide therapy. It's not one of those things where you just do it and, okay, I guess I'm going to stay on this forever, or I'm going to use this for 4 weeks, or I'm using it for 2 weeks and I don't see any improvements. I'm just going to give up because you don't understand how they do properly work within your body. So let's talk about some very popular stacks for you know, beginners, um, moderate athletes, advanced people, and then, you know, again, the combinations that we use for, you know, like um, injury recovery and protective measures for peptides. So a good beginner stack is what I'm going to call it. And one that's good for longevity would be the sermorelin, because that's the beginner, you know, GH peptide. Strength training and adequate protein. Notice there was only one peptide in that stack. Oh, look at that. Um, Sleep and recovery stacks are the CJC with no DAC and ipamorelin plus mobility. Let's do some mobility exercises on our days off. Let's make sure we're taking rest days first off and work on our mobility. And then also work on our sleep hygiene and make sure that we're actually doing the things we need to do in order to get proper sleep at night. Okay? Recomp goals. TESA and IPA, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, and progressive overload. If you're not doing progressive overload in your strength training workouts, you're kind of wasting time. I mean, you're still helping yourself, but if you've got legit recomp goals, you need to be implementing that as well. If you are an advanced athlete, tesamorelin, CJC, ipamorelin, and then recovery peptide supports depending upon what you may need in that particular situation. Okay? Injury protective stack, BPC, TB, KPV. That's my favorite stack right there. I've fallen in love with it. So, um, again, some disclaimers as far as like FDA approved versus, you know, compounded, so on and so forth. HGH is FDA approved for specific medical conditions, not specifically for fitness. Just keep that in mind. Tesamorelin, as we talked about earlier, is FDA approved for VAT, but this was for specifically the study that I read about is HIV lipodystrophy. So people who have HIV who were tending to hold on to that visceral fat, the tesamorelin was approved for them to help with that particular condition. So my husband does not have HIV, but we're still utilizing it. And then IGF-1 drugs exist for pediatric growth disorders. So yes, most of these are FDA approved, but for physique related use, it's not necessarily designed for muscle building. I just have to throw these disclaimers out to you guys so that you understand, okay? And then keep in mind, compounding rules are evolving, and specifically in 2026. We've already had some pretty significant changes to peptides, specifically research peptides, as of January 1st. And so this makes medical provider oversight and quality pharmacies critical, because there are things happening. There is a push, I guess you can say, by big pharma to limit the way that people are able to utilize certain things for certain methods, because they want their bucks out of it as well. So let's see here. Dina said, using a peptide with progressive overload, does that increase recovery? One of the issues in the way of her overload is soreness. You have to be able to walk the next day. Yes, you do. So we're not going to overdo it. We're going to get to the point, you know, you are at a place where you know what you can do, because we have this conversation, you know, weekly when we're talking about your workouts. I can do this, but I can't do that. Okay, so let's focus on what you can do and make it maybe a little bit easier at the beginning, and then work on that progressive overload, because obviously we need to be able to walk up and down stairs. We need to be able to sit on toilets. but we want to be constantly pushing ourselves. Um, that doesn't necessarily increase recovery time, because eventually your body will, obviously you're going to get stronger, you're going to gain more muscle, you're going to gain the strength, but you do need to let your body recover. If the third day you feel like you can't do anything, whether, number one, we usually alternate your upper body lower body workouts, so there shouldn't be that big of an issue with the progressive overloading, 2 days, following. But if there is still an issue after the fact, then yeah, let's take an extra day of recovery just to make sure that the body is healing and the muscle is actually building, because we're allowing the rest to happen. So, okay. Um, and again, guys, muscle building, like with this conversation I just had with Dina, it's not about chasing the tools. It's about doing the progressive overloading. We want to lift progressively heavier so that we're gaining the muscle, we're building the muscle, we're getting things activated so that while recovering, we can have new muscle growth happening. You need to make sure you're eating sufficient protein, eating sufficient, period. You have to be eating enough. You can't be eating 900 calories a day and expecting to go to the gym and, build muscle. It's just not going to happen. We need to make sure we're sleeping. Do you guys see like my consistency with foundations, how foundations really do matter with all of these particular tools, all of these peptides? We need to manage inflammation, which is where, a, a clean diet, and obviously some of these peptides are going to help you with that. And then also supporting recovery, allowing our bodies to rest, allowing them to recover. Missing one workout because you are too sore to actually function is not going to destroy your progress. Peptides are going to help you when your foundation is solid. But if your foundation's not solid, you could potentially just be wasting money thinking that these things are going to help you when there's other stuff that you need to make sure is good before you implement these other tools in. Sorry, I keep getting update or notifications on my phones. So let's talk about this. What is your biggest barrier right now? What is your biggest issue? Is it recovery? Is it protein consumption? Is it consistency? Is there an injury that you're dealing with? I know all about that. I can't do jack anything right now. Nothing. I can't do anything. Or is energy an issue? What barrier are you experiencing right now? I'm gonna see if I can actually get these comments to show that. Yeah, getting injured at the end of the year when you've got big goals for 2026 just it's not ideal, guys. I'm gonna tell you. But guess what? I have to roll with the punches. I have to go with the flow. I have to pivot. I have no choice, because my neck is a mess and my head hurts all the time. And I'm going to let my body rest, and I'm going to let it heal and let it recover. Dina says her biggest issue isn't even one of these. It's hydration. So we'll say consistency with hydration. How's that? But we are improving on it. Hydration is definitely an important thing when we're working on building muscle too. I just realized how really shiny I look. I had a facial earlier today, and wow, I look very, very shiny. I have an amazing esthetician if you're in Arizona and you're looking for somebody. She's fantastic. All right. Anybody else have any struggles? Anybody else have any questions? Julie asked a lot of really good questions, and she loves lifting the heavy things. She really does. Okay. Well, I hope that this this class, this final peptide class, was educational for you guys. I know it was a lot to go over in, what, 3 months, I think, 10 weeks, however many, I don't know, with a couple weeks off. It was a lot to go over, and that's why I've got these on YouTube so that you guys can rewatch them if you want to. If you're watching replays and you have questions, things I didn't address, or even particular peptides I didn't cover, by all means, comment there so that I know what it is that you are curious about and I can share information about it. Because going forward, we're going to do kind of back to my master classes on various topics, and next week's is going to be interesting and slightly controversial, probably. I mean, I've become controversial this past 6 months anyway, so why not? But we're going to be talking about addiction, food addiction, sugar addiction. Are they real? And should we identify as addicts if we deal with that particular thing? So that'll be next week's masterclass. And just also FYI, I am doing physical therapy right now for my neck. So the next few weeks will be a little bit off. We will not have the masterclass on Monday. It will be on Tuesday instead. So it will be on the 27th, not on the 26th. And then the following week will be the same thing. So the next 2 weeks, the master classes will be on Tuesdays instead of Mondays, so that I can do physical therapy, try to get this calmed down, stop the headaches from ruining my life, and be happier. So, and again, I need to know the things you guys want to learn about. I need to know the things you guys want to discuss in this group and on YouTube or wherever it is that you're watching. So if there are things that intrigue you, that challenge you, let's talk about them. Let me know what they are so that I can make a class and we can go over everything and hopefully help you through whatever struggles that you're having. So, Julie, you're welcome. Dina, you'll understand next week. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your Monday night, and I will see you all next Tuesday. All right? Bye.